Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Deploying Code with Confidence. Today's event is brought to you by SolarWinds and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's event. Before we get started and I introduce our today's expert presenters, I want to first remind you that we want this to be an educational event. And as such, we encourage your questions. They're in the Questions tab in your audience console. In fact, I'll highlight that Questions tab for you now. I appreciate, of course, all the great comments coming in. Hello from every city just about around the world, so thank you for those. Of course, during the presentation, though, keep those technical questions coming about today's topic, and we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of today's presentation, and we'll be taking the best questions then. So get your questions in early. I also want to call your attention to some handouts we have available for download there in the Handouts tab. Check those out. There is the Data Protection Manager data sheet, Deploying Code with Confidence, information on the demo, and the Database Protection Manager information sheet with the results sampler. So make sure you download those PDF assets now because they won't be easily accessible after today's event. And then finally, at the end of our Q&A on the webinar, we'll be awarding an Amazon $300 gift card to one lucky attendee on the live presentation. If you're watching this on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found in the Handouts tab. And without further delay, I'm excited to introduce to you today's expert presenters. They are Mr. Jared Hensel, Senior Product Marketing Manager at SolarWinds, and Mr. Hansel Akers, Sales Engineering Manager, also at SolarWinds. Jared and Hansel, thank you so much for being on the event today. I'll first hand it over to Jared. Take it away, Jared.
All right, thank you, David. Deploying code with confidence, and in particular, looking at the back end of the database performance of when code is deployed, its impact, how you can trouble root cause, things along those lines. So a little bit about myself. I've been in IT for 15 plus years. I've worked for Fortune 100 companies to MSPs, always in the system space, virtualization, applications, cloud, and databases. Ironically enough, one of the database products in SolarWinds portfolio was the last product I bought before starting here. And I've been on the system side while here for product marketing and strategy, and currently I am responsible for Database Performance Monitor. And then I'll let Hansel give his quick bio.
Hey, everyone. So I manage the sales engineering team at SolarWinds, specifically for DPM, the product that we'll be looking at today, Database Performance Monitor. I spent some time working in some different capacities as sales engineer, and more recently came to manage the DPM team. So excited to be here. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Awesome. Thank you. So a little bit about SolarWinds. Obviously, most people know us on the networking space. We've been around for going on 21 years now. We are obviously, like I said, well known in the networking space, number one there, number three in systems, in 499 of the Fortune 500 companies. So we are a large organization with thousands of employees worldwide, with thousands or hundreds of thousands of customers. And so really what we're trying to do is help really manage your one-stop shop for all things IT, be it Cisco, be it Microsoft, be it MySQL, anything technology related, anything that kind of plugs into a wall per se, we want to be able to monitor for you. A little bit about how we kind of see hybrid IT. This is kind of a spin on Gartner's ITOM, how they classify ITOM. We kind of classify it a little bit differently, where we've got application performance monitoring, and we will do that on premises or in the cloud, physical, virtual, IaaS, PaaS, it doesn't matter. We've got database performance monitoring. We've got multiple products in that category. And then we've kind of got our infrastructure side, which is your servers, your storage, and then obviously your networking side, and then your service desk and security. So really we want, again, to be your one-stop shop for all things IT. But really, the point of this webcast is how we envision, obviously we've got some APM solutions to help with actually troubleshooting code, but what we're going to do is look at how you can actually look at it from a database point of view. We're not looking at actual, trips, traps and logs and things like that, but this is going to be just, again, on the back end database performance. So, really, what we're seeing is every time new code is pushed, and even with our SaaS APM solution, I mean, you're talking in upwards of 10, 15, 20 times a day that new code is being implemented. You've got to track that performance. You've got to see, is it doing what it's supposed to do? Was it supposed to make things run faster? Were things supposed to stay the same because I'm adding more options? Whatever it is, you're supposed to kind of just have an outcome of what that code is supposed to do. But just like on premises, databases are kind of black boxes. They're just, hey, I push out there and the users will let us know if something's performing bad. So again, even in the SaaS world and cloud world, databases still are this black box enigma. So what we're trying to do is really show you how your code affects deployment, without having to jump into multiple systems. And really, again, with databases, you could have DBAs on staff, you could have system generalists, you could have developers. So what is a quick and easy way that everybody can get on the same page to at least, either start troubleshooting or see the impact, that you're not having to log in the multiple tools. So with our database performance monitor, we'll probably say DPM, they're one and the same. You can see how you can be more confident in your code, ship your code, at a more rapid pace, and really just have a better, deployment experience. So what we want to show you is in this webcast, see how you can view new queries introduced, see changes to database performance, possibly in staging, so you can actually kind of run it through a QA process before pushing it out production. How you can change your time frame. Obviously, sometimes you may make a change and it happens every hour or once a day or once a week. So you need to be able to, adjust your time frame to show that particular interval. If you make code changes and it takes place on Sunday, looking at it right now is not going to do any good. And then really kind of look at it and analyze the data. Go, hey, I'm seeing this trend over 6 months, a month, whatever it is that you can say, hey, usage is going up, latency is going up, or number of wait time, whatever it is, you can sit there and make judgments to, hey, what we are pushing the code effectively over time, or hey, you can see a year ago we had a bunch of releases and think we've course corrected. We understand that coders and programmers and everybody, they're human, so mistakes are going to happen, but you're able to spot these trends long term. How Database Performance Monitor helps with that. What we're going to do is give you a holistic view of your open source database performance. And really, we want this to be for the entire IT team, for them to use. And we want you to be able to deploy this to one database or thousands of databases. So really, we want to be the one-stop shop for you to look at. Okay, here's my database performance. I've got some Postgres, I've got Mongo, I've got MySQL, whatever it is, anything of your open source databases. We want to pull that all into one location. We don't want you to log into 500 different tools to look at it. Again, we want you to bring that in. If your application is on premises, that's cool. We want to be able to bring that in. If your application is in the cloud, we want to bring that in. We want to, wherever it is, we want to bring that data into a single repository for you to view. And we want you to have full visibility into the database and query behavior. We want you to see all your queries, not just the top 10 poor performing queries, or we want you to see all the queries to see, hey, maybe this query is super fast, but it's executed 1 million times. Or maybe this query is fast, but it's getting slower over time. So, we don't want your tool to just go, hey, here are your top 10 bad actors. We want to catch things before they become bad actors, things along those lines. And then really with 1 second granularity, you're really able to pinpoint, right when things happen, go back to, hey, when was it pushed, or really see small changes. You're not waiting on a 1 minute or 5 minute polling interval. You're not waiting for data to get kind of rolled up of, hey, it was 50 here and 100 there, and we're just going to say it's 75. We want to show you the values over time. And with 1 second granularity, it really does allow you to kind of notice the small details that will get completely missed with larging polar intervals that some other products provide. Again, more about Database Performance Monitor, because now we have 2 products in our portfolio. It is a SaaS platform. So again, this is in the cloud. It is, you're not having to download and, spin up a Windows server to install the software on or anything along those lines. It is a SaaS solution. What we're also showing you is your system health along with your database. So you do want to see, what your consumption is. Obviously, if you've got a poorly configured operating system and resources, then you're really going to be trying to squeeze performance. It's going to be very difficult if you're always at 100% memory, 100% CPU, IOPS, whatever that is. The before and after, being able to go, hey, show me what was the performance an hour ago, a day ago, a week ago, whatever it is, so that you can sit there and go, okay, hey, this looks funky. Let me go see what it was a week ago. Okay, now let me go change my time intervals. Okay, let me go work with developers and when things were pushed. Okay, hey, yes, this did impact performance. This is right when it happened. And then getting into your queries, seeing it in real time, going back in time, really trying to dig into your database, because there's a bunch of APM solutions out there that really do help you, with your code, with your application, but they kind of just leave you at the front door saying, hey, there's a database issue. It took 500 minutes, but we really don't know what's going on, whatever it is. So they may nudge you in the right direction, but we want this tool to be complementary to that, to go, okay, hey, we're going to get you in the front door and we're really going to show you what's happening. We're going to actually let you to find and fix the issue, as opposed to just saying it's the database, shrugging your shoulders and trying to figure something else out. And then alerting, you want to know when something is down. Obviously, you want to be as proactive as possible for those, when you're not monitoring the system or staring at it. And then when you are staring at it, you want to be able to customize it for your needs. I understand that different teams have different responsibilities. You may have a database administrator that they just work on Postgres, or they just work in these systems, or these, or MySQL or Mongo. So again, having the ability to customize the data is going to expedite your troubleshooting, expedite your, thumbs up, thumb down on go, no go, things along those lines. And then really also that your data is, since it is a SaaS solution, it's protected. We are GDPR, we're SOC 2 compliant. So again, we're just not putting your data in some public repository that anybody can get to. This is secure data. So again, you have peace of mind that when we're monitoring your database performance, we're just not taking that data and exposing it on the back end. A couple use cases, and obviously we're going to focus on the first one, is deploying the code, is really, reducing risk, seeing the changes in behavior related to new queries, identifying outliers, and then really finding recommendations to optimize. So again, this is where you're working hand in hand with a developer of some sort to go, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is where we have an opportunity to change code, modify code, or live with it. Again, at least you're on the same page. And then obviously there are other use cases too. Hey, it's after the fact, something funky's going on. It may not even be code related. There just was an update. Something weird's going on. It's IT, technology stuff breaks. And then just overall hey, I just want to get check-in. I want a red light, green light type thing on my database, just to, a pretty executive dashboard. So with that said, I've mentioned open databases. Again, the databases that DPM supports are MySQL, Postgres, Mongo, Amazon Aurora, and Redis. These can be on-premises, physical, virtual, doesn't matter. VMware Hyper-V, AHV, whatever, it doesn't matter. Or they can be cloud-based workloads. So again, really, if you have one of these databases pretty much anywhere, we can start monitoring it. Obviously, if you're in some sort of air-gapped fed network, a SaaS solution already is going to be very problematic. But again, if we can get access to it, we can bring that data in. So you can see that, obviously, some of the customers we're working with, they are cutting edge SaaS-based vendors, Shopify, Etsy. You can see some of the quotes where we're giving you real-time visibility into performance. We're allowing you to piece of software that needs to be improved, obviously. And the one I really stands out to me for this particular webcast is the bottom right one, is deploying code with confidence. The instant the deploy change, we can confirm exactly what we anticipated would happen to the charts. And then obviously sometimes what you anticipated doesn't happen, and then you roll back code. Mistakes happen. But again, this gives you that checkbox of, hey, yes, exactly what happened. This query went away. The number of queries went away. We expected these queries, or hey, we just kind of threw stuff at the wall and this is what came out. So again, we have a number of customers that are using this solution. Cisco, Yelp, DraftKings, Shutterfly. A number of these are SaaS-based solutions. But again, tying back to the open source, tying back to custom apps, this is where we find ourselves really in that sweet spot. If somebody wants to go, hey, I want to use you to monitor my backend Microsoft Dynamics database that I can't change, we're not the solution. At least this particular is not the solution for you. But again, this is where you've got an open source database. Again, you don't have to be changing code. We can totally look at that database, but a great use case that we want to highlight today is if you are changing code, how you can use this to assist in that process. With that said, obviously, I'd like to get to the best part of any webcast is the demo. Slideware is boring, so I'm going to turn it over to Hansel right now.
Thanks, Jared, for the overview. Just to provide a little context here before we get into some of the use cases we'll cover today. This is DPM, Database Performance Monitor, as we just provided a quick overview on for those of you that are probably likely seeing it for the first time. Along the top here, you can see some of the filters that we can leverage. So today, when you jump in and your default view here will be 50 of 50. So we're actually looking at all of our database, all of our hosts in a single environment, and that actually includes a mix of MySQL, Postgres, and Mongo. So what we can do here is filter on specific database types, individual databases. We can logically tag, group them to make sure that we're filtering on the hosts or database of interest. We're also looking at the past hour of execution time, which will be great for the use case we're looking at of confidently deploying code. We can use our time picker here to be flexible in what we look at, as well as get very, very custom here in the custom filter dropdown to define specific time ranges that we're interested in. And then along the left side here is going to be your navigation pane. You can see I'm already on our profiler page, which is where we'll spend a good amount of our time. And a lot of our customers are also spending a good amount of their time as well. Great. So let's get into the fun stuff here. So we're looking at the profiler, as I mentioned. What the profiler does is allow you to rank, sort, filter every query running across all of our selected hosts. So in this instance, we're looking at everything in the past hour. So for instance, if we look at this third most time-consuming query down here on the list in the profiler, this insert into guest book query, it's accounting for about 14.67% of total runtime. And that's about 4.72 hours of wall clock time across all of our hosts in the past hour. So that's how that's read. That's the default sort. We're looking at most time-consuming queries. We can also sort on some of these other metrics that are active in default as well. So on average in the past hour, what are my longest running queries, as well as highest volume? Again, a way to identify outliers. What I'm going to do is jump up to our compare time ranges feature, and I'm going to apply an hour-over-hour comparison here. So this is where we get into being able to confidently deploy code and really understand the relative changes being introduced. So you can see we're looking at hour over hour. So my global filter is an hour, and that's going to be shown in the teal. And then we're comparing the previous hour, which is in gray right below it. You can see that we've also now generated a column of change percentage. So I can go ahead and sort on that, and we can quickly identify the highest percentage of change that's being introduced hour over hour, as well as the lowest. So you can see some of that negative percentages showing up here as well. One of the nice features about the compare time ranges feature is that we can look at the relative changes being introduced, as well as the contributing factors. So we can look at average latency still. So we can quickly eyeball and get an idea of, is this related to some sort of increase or uptick in average latency or was there a volume uptick? So we can see pretty confidently here that the previous hour, this select count that we're looking at the top that's increased the most, only ran about 467 times. And then the most recent hour that we're looking at about 14,000 times, which is also shown here in our spark lines. So we can be confident that this looks like a query that's recently picked up. And this is definitely attributed to the volume uptick. So I'm going to go ahead and show some other ways that we can sort. We also can, of course, continue to sort on the default row of, or the default column of most time consumption. So this gives us the ability to really understand our most time consuming queries and continue to sort by that, but also quickly understand, of my most time consuming queries that, of course, are affecting my data tier the most, what kind of change is being introduced as a direct result of something like an app deployment. Again, you can probably tell how this feature is general enough to use across a variety of events that can happen. I think a code deployment is one that's very helpful to use this for. People use this for things like database config changes, schema changes, index. If you're adding an index to a specific query, if you want to confirm that it's introducing less time consumption than you previously had, that's another way that you can use this. But of course, the most valuable one here is confidently deploying code. So from here, I'm going to take it a couple additional steps. And what we can do is start to visualize it a bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and sort on change again. And I'm going to add a change marker. So we actually have one here that we've created. It's an app deployment marker. You can see that it's a vertical purple dotted line here. And that's going to allow us to start to visualize exactly where that took place. So, now that I see this query falling off exactly where that app deployment took place, I can be confident that it's due to that app deployment. So we can see queries fall off. We can see some other queries that are picking up. And you can see how this visualization will continue to show down through all of our spark lines here. So we can really start to understand and see the specific impact of an app deployment. So what I'm going to do is actually zoom in on this time range. So you can see that all these spark lines are interactive. I can drag, drop, and zoom in on a specific time range. It looked like this one took place at about 10 a.m. And what I'm able to do now is really start to hone in on that time range. In this instance, we're looking at about 3 minutes. So I can see that 3 minutes here, and then I can also now compare the 3 minutes exactly 1 hour prior. So you can see how you can start to drag, drop, zoom in, and really start to compare different time ranges to understand the relative change and the change that's being introduced. So at a systematic level, the profiler here is going to give you the ability to really understand what kind of performance changes are occurring post code deployments. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over to our queries page. This is going to allow us to take it a step further and be proactive in how we approach changes being introduced at more of a granular level here. So you can see I can filter on show me any new queries, as well as by some additional filtering methods here. So for instance, if I want to just look at all new queries since the app deployment took place, and you can see how that change marker is still sticky there. We can see and quickly identify which queries are being introduced. So for instance, this one looks like we have some errors or failed best practices. And what we can do is be really proactive in identifying, triaging, and going ahead and just jumping ahead and optimizing some of these. So I'm going to jump back here and look at show me every new query that is missing an index. So again, this is going to give us the opportunity to be proactive in how we index. So we can optimize before this potentially interrupts business operations down the road, or continues to affect your data tier down the road as well. So a couple different ways, as I mentioned, that we can sort here. I'm going to continue to be filtered on new queries only, and I'm going to select this specific query. So from the profiler, from the queries page, you can select any of those queries. You probably realized as I was hovering and moving around, those are clickable links. And what that will do is route you to the query details page. So now we're looking at this newly introduced query. We're actually capturing sample executions here. So you can see this blue spark line is very similar to the spark lines we saw in the profiler. But what we're seeing here overlaying are these sample executions, these red circles with the ellipsis. What I can do is select these. When I select these, you can see we now have sample text. So we're looking at a query tag here. We're looking at specific query text. And if I scroll down a little bit further, we're going to get a lot of additional information about the specific execution I've selected. So things like metadata, failed best practice recommendations, the latency of this specific request, the origin, the user, the database that it's coming from. So a lot of metadata you can access pretty quickly here. And of course, if it's an explainable query, we will provide an explain plan here as well, both in tabular form and raw JSON. And this will give you a lot of information about, was this a full table scan? How many rows were affected? If I flip over to the JSON form here, you'll be able to see the relative query cost. So we can get a good idea of how taxing it was on the system, how this performed and ran under the hood. And we also provide a bunch of additional metrics. So we'll get a host breakdown here. If this is a query that's running across multiple database instances, so primary, secondaries, sharded environments, whatever that may look like for everyone's environment. We know everyone's environment's very unique. You can start to correlate here volume and total time to see how they're lining up. So something that's evenly distributed from a volume perspective, but say you have a specific host that's consuming more time, we definitely want to focus on that host. And of course, we could go ahead and grab it, filter on it, make sure we're looking at the executions that are specific to that host. And then some additional metrics down here. So we'll look at things like, did this query use an index as we filtered on previously on that queries page? Things like rows sent, rows examined, shared blocks hit, shared blocks read for Postgres, a lot of additional metrics that'll show up here that allow you to really drill down into this newly identified query and find opportunities to optimize early on. The last thing I'll show here is our best practices page. We did mention some of the best practices that showed up when we were looking at specific sample executions, and we're still looking at this this very granular time range of about 3 minutes since that app deployment took place. But what we can do is identify best practices and opportunities for improvement at a variety of levels. So we looked at some of those query level recommendations. This is going to work very well as a moving dashboard. So, if I'm getting up and running, I'll find opportunities pretty quickly. If I'm deploying code and anything that new pops up or falls off here, I can be confident that one, there's opportunity for improvements. And if not, if something falls off, I probably changed something or did something correctly that I'm now adhering to a specific best practice set forth in the app. But you can see some of these different buckets. Again, it works well as a moving dashboard, make changes, tweaks. If you're deploying code, jump in here, see what's showing up or what's falling off as a great opportunity, a high-level opportunity to really address some of these different buckets that we have here based on criticality. So at this point, I'm going to hand it back over to David and Jared, and I think we're going to go ahead and move forward with some Q&A.
Very cool. Yeah, excellent demo. Love seeing the product in action. So let's see, Jared and Hansel, first question that came in here, Sarah's asking, can you configure alerts, such as when CPU is high on one of these database servers?
Yes, I can take that one. We do have a lot of alerting. You can actually alert on metrics similar to when CPU exceeds a certain threshold. And then also when I was showing that app deployment, the agent does capture a lot of events out of box. So you can alert on those specific events as well. Things like database config changes, MySQL approaching max MySQL connections, this device near full filling up. All of those, the agent's intelligent enough to kind of capture out of box without any customization needed on your end. And then we also integrate for alerts with Slack, PagerDuty, Ops Genie, VictorOps, of course, email, and then a custom webhook if there's anything else that you really want to integrate with.
Okay, nice. A lot of options going on there for alerts. Another question I had is, who are the primary users of this product? Is it administrators? Is it DBAs? Is it developers, or kind of all of the above? Jared?
Well, while Hansel tries to get his things, it is all the above. In a number of organizations, we are working directly with the DBA, that's all they are in charge of. In a number of organizations, we are working hand in hand. We're more in the engineering side. So again, depending on how your IT infrastructure, IT is segmented, sometimes we are just truly in the IT department. As far as the DBA, sometimes we're in the engineering department with DBAs. We even have managers, site reliability engineers that are basically kind of using this as a purview of, hey, I just need to make sure everybody's pushing code and that it's, not affecting performance. So we're kind of all in those realms.
Nice. Okay. A lot of options there. Okay. Another question that came in, Martin's asking, does this add any overhead to the database queries? I mean, for example, would this slow things down for the databases as they're being monitored?
Yes. Yeah, so very low overhead. The agent can be configured, installed a bunch of different ways. Typically, it's around 1 to 3% total CPU, depending on the install method. So we can actually install the agent directly on the server and database we want to monitor. And we can also install it alongside the database and query additional, the existing informational views like the performance schema, PG stat statements, in those tables. And that's usually around the 2 to 3% total CPU, but pretty low overweight and overhead.
Nice. Okay. Next question they're asking is about integrations. What else can this product integrate with?
Sure. So I mentioned some of the outbound integrations for alerting, whether that's event or metric based. We can also integrate with Grafana. So I know a lot of folks use that and like to create custom dashboards. So we do have a Grafana plugin. And then for some of those resource metrics for managed solutions, because we can't install the agent directly on Box, we integrate with CloudWatch today as well. So if you want to kind of get the full picture there for those RDS or Aurora hosted database instances, we can plug into CloudWatch as well.
Okay. And what about databases running in the cloud? Are there certain cloud vendors that this works better with or is compatible with?
Not any specifically. We do support, AWS, GCP, Azure. We have some customers hosted on each of those. And we do support both self-hosted, self-managed, as well as those managed services that we were just mentioning. So, we can support both, on-prem in the cloud and the different cloud providers as well.
Okay, nice. And I want to call out your attention to the links on the screen there. If you mouse over those, they're actually clickable. You can just click on those and those will open up new tabs or pages in your web browser. So let's continue on here with the Q&A. Next question they're asking really is around database support. Which databases, again, can you review for us? Does the product support?
Sure. Jared covered this in the beginning. So we support MySQL, Postgres, MongoDB, Redis, and Aurora database types. And we are getting ready to release support for Vitesse as well.
Okay, nice. And does this, Kathy's asking, does this integrate with other software deployment tools?
Yeah, so the app deployment event that you saw is basically a one-line curl. So in situations like that, like continuous deployment tools, you can append that to the end of release scripts. I know that's a lot of folks do today. And of course, automate deployments using some of those as well.
Okay. And can this tool, Sean is asking, can this tool assist in some way with security and compliance reporting?
Yes, it can. It's definitely not a security monitoring tool. We actually have some, as I jump to that best practices page, there were security recommendations. We do capture error codes, so things like failed login errors, things like that. So definitely not a security tool. There are a lot of use cases and best practice recommendations specific to security. That's useful as well, though.
Okay, nice. And then when it comes to APM tools, does this solution replace them or does it work with them?
The tool works very well in tandem with APM solutions. So, a pretty high percentage of our customers are already using an application monitoring tool like an AppOptics, Datadog, New Relic, whatever it may be. It usually, as Jared put it, and I thought he put it really well, it's sort of those application monitoring tools will bring you to the door, and then you're kind of stuck there to investigate further. So a lot of times point you in the right direction, and then DPM will allow you to really understand how the application is performing from a database perspective.
Okay. And would you say that this tool could help developers write better code by seeing the impact that their queries or their software has on the databases?
I do, yeah. So one of those customers and one of the logos that we saw on the screen during the slideshow was GitHub, and they actually do this very, very well. But all of their developers own their code. So what they do, they all have access to DPM. So when they're deploying code, they all log in right after, and they're able to really be responsible for their code. So whatever they're pushing, whatever they're responsible for, it'll sort of shed a light on that. But also give them the opportunity to really make changes, roll back changes, or just confirm and gut check that everything went off without a hitch.
Okay, nice. And then next question, what's the licensing model on this?
Yeah, so licensing is very straightforward. We license per database instance. So we're not going to license based on number of metrics or number of integrations or number of users. Basically, you get a license per database instance, and you're going to get unlimited users, unlimited metrics, everything in your environment.
Nice. And what's the easiest way to get started or try this out?
Yeah, so we offer a free trial. So you can actually sign up for a free trial and get started really quickly and install right away. I like to say we give you the keys to the castle, so we're not going to hold anything back. We'll allow you to install on your databases and test everything out to make sure that it's valuable to you. And of course, you'll get actually some dedicated trial management teams to help you walk through it and look at your environment with you. So a great opportunity to test it out.
Awesome. Well, I like that. I always like products where it's super easy to try and get started with and do some sort of proof of concept with, to see how it can really help you in your real environment. Jared and Hansel, it's been really great having you on the event today. I love the live demo. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for having us.
Thanks, David.
And thank you to SolarWinds for supporting today's event. I learned a lot. I hope that you did too. Now it's time to award our Amazon $300 gift card that's going to Joe Gordon from California. Congratulations, Joe Gordon from California. Again, for more information on the SolarWinds Database Performance Monitor, visit solarwinds.com. You can use the links that are on the screen right there. You can also go to the handouts tab or just type in solarwinds.com in your web browser and check it out for yourself. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's webinar. Have a great day.